On February 1st, 2013, Hugh Freeze tweeted, "If you have facts about a violation, send it to compliance@olemiss.edu. If not, please do not slander these young men or insult their family." This is the Museum of Twitter, the show we talk about the most important tweets in the history of Twitter.com. It's Sports Tweet Saturday and the college football playoff is in full swing, so I decided I would cover what might be, from a actual impact standpoint, the most important tweet in the history of college football Twitter. I'll do my best to try to explain to people who don't know anything about college football, but if you know anything about college football, you can probably figure out why this is important. So let's do some table setting. First and foremost, I really want to thank Stephen Godfrey, who was at SB Nation at the time, for writing Crooked Letters, which is a thing that chronicled this whole saga at Ole Miss. And so I'm going to be using that a lot for context, and if I don't cite a specific moment, just know that I'm definitely thinking of what Stephen Godfrey wrote. Anyway, Hugh Freeze is a college football coach, and at the time he tweeted this, he was the head coach at Ole Miss. And the reason he tweeted this is because Ole Miss, which traditionally was sort of like a middling team in the SEC, had just landed 3 super high-ranking recruits: Robert Nkemdiche, Laquan Treadwell, and Laramie Tunsil. This was super out of the ordinary for Ole Miss, particularly because Hugh Freeze was not a coach with a super high pedigree, and before he got there, they were a pretty middling team for the years before. If you're not a college football fan, you might not know this, but if you are a college football fan, you definitely know this. The fact that they got these great recruits led people to immediately accuse them of cheating and giving them improper benefits. This, of course, all took place before the current NIL era. Now, this all be moot, these players would be getting paid for NIL deals, but this is before all of that existed. This is when the NCAA actually cared, or at least they pretended to care, about players getting paid money. And so Hugh Freeze tweeted this out, egging people on, saying hey, you think we paid these players? Email us at Ole Miss, give us your evidence. Now the problem, of course, is that if we fast forward a few years, it was revealed that Ole Miss was paying a bunch of players to come to the school and giving improper benefits. And Hugh Freeze undoubtedly knew about this, and so it probably was inadvisable for him to egg people on to give information about them cheating. Stephen Godfrey in his piece quoted from an anonymous SEC head coach at the time and said, "Why would you ever challenge the NCAA? No coach on earth would do that. Nothing good can happen. Nothing. Even if you really truly believe you're running a clean, technically clean program top to bottom, you can't be naive enough to believe that somewhere in the hundreds of people that touch your football team that there isn't something going on that the NCAA could build a violation out of." If you're not a college football fan and you don't know the college football landscape before NIL, I really cannot emphasize how much of an own goal this was. And even before anything official came out, it was an own goal because obviously he put out an email in the public and it got a lot of emails. And one of the best things about college football is that a lot of these universities that are powerhouses are technically public colleges, so all of their emails are public and they all can be gotten with FOIA requests. And the Memphis Commercial Appeal did just that. They FOIA requested the emails that this email got, which were eventually reposted by Deadspin. Most of the responses were trolling. Go home, Hugh, you're drunk. Look, I don't know who needs to know this, but the rumor going around is that Redacted, they redact students' names, and his mama are on the way there and she is wired. I know it's probably a rumor. I know our school and our coach is doing no wrong, but I just thought someone may want to know about this ahead of time. Just a concerned fan. Keep up the good work. Your football coach tweeted a request to send emails to your office with proof of recruiting violations. Any decent football player signed to play for your pathetic football team is all the proof needed. You need to do an in-depth investigation of the recruitment of Redacted and Redacted. Mr. Redacted posted piles of large cash while he was on a recent visit to Ole Miss. Mr. Redacted has been headed to either Alabama or Georgia for the last 2 years. In a week, he suddenly wants to come to your trash pile of a college. This is kind of simmered, and I think it occasionally got emails, but it wasn't really a big deal until, as I mentioned, the shoe dropped. If you're a football fan, you definitely remember this. In 2016, Laramie Tunsil, who was one of the recruits to Ole Miss, he was expected to be the #1 pick in the NFL draft. And he was not, because of posts that are posted to his Instagram account on the day of the draft. Initially, it was believed that it was his former stepfather who he had some disagreements with, but now it seems like it might have been a former business manager, but I still don't think we know for sure. Anyway, the Instagram post that got the big headlines was a photo of Laramie Tunsil inhaling an illicit substance using a gas mask. But the one that actually was more important in terms of the grand scheme of the world is that there were photos of text messages in which he was admitting to taking money and getting money from people at Ole Miss. And just a few days later, when he was asked about it, he said, "Yes, I did take money from people at Ole Miss." And this caused a complete storm with the email that Hugh Freeze put out. People immediately jumped on it on Twitter. William Quackenbush tweeted, "Remember when Hugh Freeze told people to email him with evidence of violations? We want to discuss that again?" Steve Keane tweeted, "Hugh Freeze would like anyone with knowledge about who hacked Tunsil's accounts to email Ole Miss compliance." And 2 years later, the great college football writer Alex Kirshner did us all a mitzvah, and he FOIA requested the email again to see what people emailed after the Tunsil situation. There were so many, and most of them are just being hey, did you not see this on TV? But I'll read a couple. I saw Coach Freeze's tweet a few years ago asking people to report possible NCAA violations at Ole Miss to this email address. interest. One of your former players has announced that he accepted money from a coach while playing for your program. I thought you might want to be aware. Redacted. In his post-draft press conference, reporters asked him about the text and whether or not he took money at Ole Miss. Then, during another question, a woman abruptly comes onto stage, insists that Redacted has no more comments, and shovels him off, where he is briefed behind a door. Please thank Coach Freeze for letting me know to whom I should report this. Another one. Redacted admitted he took money from your coach, seen it on TV with my own eyes, and your coach said if anyone had any info on players receiving benefits, to let his compliance department know. If you don't believe, just read every sports section you can find in the morning. And a third one. Hello, Ole Miss. I'm responding to football coach Hugh Freeze's 2013 tweet. At Coach Hugh Freeze. If you have facts about a violation, email compliance@olemiss.edu. If not, please don't slander the young men. I'm watching ESPN, and I'm seeing what looks like a violation to me. Compliance with NCAA rules and regulations is very important to me, and Coach Freeze's commitment to following the rules is inspiring. This is all so tongue-in-cheek, and it's so great. But the thing you have to understand about Hugh Freeze is that he's incredibly disliked. He's an incredibly dislikable person. He's just, really annoying. He apparently will, DM journalists who say bad things about him. There's a non-zero chance that he sees this episode and DMs me something about it. And so people, both Freeze's competitors and college football fans, were really relishing in taking him down. And he did get taken down, but not for recruiting violations. This is where the story is great, in my opinion, because he technically did get taken down for something related to this. Basically, and I'm getting this information from Stephen Godfrey's great article, if you want to read it. I seriously recommend you read it if you're a college football fan at all. That when Ole Miss was initially accused of recruiting violations, they released a statement saying, hey, actually, those violations, most of them, were done by the previous coach. Not Hugh Freeze, the previous coach, Houston Nutt. Yes, a person's name is Houston Nutt. You're just going to have to accept it if I'm going to move on with the story. And Houston Nutt was really peeved that he got accused of that, because he believed that he had nothing to do with the things that the NCAA was currently investigating. And for the record, he was mostly right. Ole Miss was lying. Most of the violations were under Hugh Freeze. And so Houston Nutt, because he was so mad at Hugh Freeze for lying on his name, he did a FOIA request himself. He requested records for Hugh Freeze's phone, and he was looking for calls that Hugh Freeze made to some journalists that involved, Nutt's name getting slandered, but that's not actually what he found. He sent the phone records over to an actual journalist who called all the numbers to see who Hugh Freeze was calling, and one of the numbers, and keep in mind, this is Hugh Freeze's company cell phone. This was given to him, technically speaking, by the state of Mississippi, and on the cell phone, during recruiting trips, he was calling escort services on his state-issued phone on recruiting trips. Why did he do this? Well, an Ole Miss booster that Godfrey quoted said, because he's the cheapest motherfucker I've ever met. And so that's actually why Hugh Freeze got taken down. And then, of course, because college football is a broken morass, he ended up having a redemption story at Liberty University, which is ironic if you think about Liberty University. And then he was eventually hired in the SEC again, which is a thing that Stephen Godfrey actually predicted in his story from 2017. He was hired in the SEC again by Auburn, and he just got fired recently because he was not that good at coaching at Auburn, and he's so unlikable to be around that he doesn't have, the benefit of people being like, let's give him another chance. And because, like I said, college football is an awful morass, he'll definitely have another chance to coach somewhere else again. But you'll always have the moment that he put a target on his own back because he was mad about people gossiping about him maybe paying players when he definitely was paying players. And in case you're wondering if he thinks this is a good idea, later on after he had left the program, he was asked and he said, sometimes you make decisions that probably aren't the sharpest. Do I regret doing it? Absolutely. Do I regret doing it? Absolutely, is also what anyone who's ever hired Hugh Freeze said later. Follow me for a new tweet every day, and if you'd like the show, please go to patreon.com/Museum of Twitter. We get a weekly bonus episode called the Museum of Not Twitter, and you get to vote on my cover on Subscriber Sundays.